Hey YouTube, how's it going? Felix here. Today in this video I want to answer a really common question which was put in the comments section of my previous Range Rover video. So my previous Range Rover video, which I'll link up there in the top right hand corner if you haven't watched it yet, it's the full in-depth tour of our 2017 Range Rover Vogue SE with the SD V8 4.4 litre diesel V8 engine. And lots of people were asking me, they were saying, why did you choose the V8 over the V6? And it's a fantastic question. It's a really great question. I think here in the UK at least, the vast majority of people will be considering either the V6 diesel or the V8 diesel. There is, of course, the very spicy and very expensive petrol V8 as well, the supercharged one. But that's very expensive. And I think the vast majority, like 95% of people, will probably want to buy one of the diesels because they just make more financial sense. But anyway, what I'm going to be doing in this video is I'm going to break down the differences between the V6 and the V8 on 4 different categories, and hopefully that will make it really clear to you and help you sort of guide your purchase decision if you want to buy one of these Range Rovers, and yeah, give you lots and lots of food for thought. So let's get going. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to be looking at in this comparison is the purchase price. Here I'm using the Alpine as a lovely shelf, just so I can hold my notes here for you. So what I'm going to be doing in this video is I'm going to be comparing the 3-litre TD V6 versus the 4.4-litre SD V8 engines on a 2017 Range Rover, which is just like ours, just like this one here. This was a comparison that I made when we bought this car. The reason I'm doing that is because if I was to compare every model year of a V6 and V8, the video would get really long and really complicated. So if you're looking perhaps for a slightly younger than 2017 Range Rover or older than 2017, the numbers I'm going to show might be slightly different, but hopefully the principles still remain the same and you can still use this video as some good food for thought. Okay, so when the car was new, the V8 was more expensive. It, in fact, was £6,800 more expensive than the V6 when the car was new. And in 2021, if you're looking for a 2017 Range Rover with a V8, you're going to pay somewhere in the region of £3,000 to £5,000 more for a V8 over a V6. Now, that's a bit of a guesstimation. It's really tricky to find a car which has identical spec in terms of sort of options and colour and all that stuff, and the only difference is the engine. But you know, you may find some cars which are outside of that bracket, but I think on the whole you're going to be looking at paying additional, say, 3 to 5 grand for the V8. However, that is absolutely not to say that that money is money down the drain. You know, you are going to get a good proportion of that money back when you come to sell your car on, and also you've got to think about other things like the future value potential. And is the V6 or the V8 more desirable on the whole? And it's a very tricky thing to say, and to be honest, I don't know the answer 100% myself. It really comes down to your personal opinion. What I do know for a fact, though, is that there are quite a few options when it comes to buying V6 diesel cars out there, but there aren't that many V8 diesel options out there, and this particular type of car are getting rarer and rarer in the future. So there is definitely a sort of limited supply factor which is applying to the V8s, which may help keep its used values nice and high in the future. Who knows? Okay, on to the next section. Okay, now moving on to everyone's favourite Range Rover topic, its running costs. Okay, so let's compare the running costs of the V6 versus the V8 diesel engines. So first thing I'm going to look at is road tax. So if your car was registered after the 1st of April 2017, which our car was, then there's a sort of different tax scheme in place where basically you pay £490 for the first 5 years if your car's value is over £40,000, which pretty much all Range Rovers are. And it's actually based on the original list price as well, so definitely all the Range Rovers are over that amount. You pay £490 per year for the first 5 years, then it reduces down to like 150 quid after that. But it doesn't matter on what the level of carbon emissions is for the car in terms of grams per kilometre of CO2. It doesn't matter, you just pay the same amount. So in that case, the V6 and the V8 are actually the same. However, if you're looking at a Range Rover which is older than, as in if it's older than this, it was registered before the 1st of April 2017, then you're going to use the old system for road tax, which is based on CO2 levels. And in that case, the V8 will be slightly higher in terms of CO2, and thus will have more expensive road tax. But I wouldn't say it's a crazy amount more. It's probably like 150 quid more a year. So pretty negligible if you ask me. Okay, the next one is fuel consumption. So, Land Rover say for a V6 it will do 37.7 miles per gallon, And for the V8, they say it will do 32.5 miles per gallon. And I just said it's got an 86-litre tank as well here. So these are expensive fill-ups when you fill up the car. Anyway, I had a look on some forums, had a look around, and people say that the V6 will do, in the real world, roughly around 36 miles per gallon. UK, these are UK miles per gallon. We've got the Range Rover here, and I can tell you for a fact what this one does. We drive it around town, we go on long trips, we do sort of quite nice mixed driving in it, and I definitely don't drive this very fast. I drive it pretty slow. And what we get from the car is 29 miles per gallon. That's a very, very real figure. Sometimes you might get 30, but 29 is what I'm putting here because that's pretty realistic. So if you work all this out, you end up with, for 5,000 miles of driving, with an average diesel cost of £1.30 per litre, which is pretty much the price today in 2021. Obviously, that can change in the future anytime. That works out for about £820 of diesel for 5,000 miles in a V6 and £1,000 for 5,000 miles of diesel in a V8. So that's 24% more fuel costs in the V8 versus the V6. Okay, good to know. Next section is the warranty. Okay, now this almost like deserves a whole video by itself because it's such a big topic. But you are going to want, in most cases, you're going to want the extended Land Rover warranty for these cars. This is something that our used car dealer told us when we bought this car, is that you are basically, if you want to resell this car, you pretty much need to have the extended warranty on it. These cars have a 3-year manufacturer warranty, as you'd expect from Land Rover, but you have the option to pay to extend that warranty every year. And the best part is that if you keep extending the warranties indefinitely, you never actually have to have the car inspected by Jaguar Land Rover. You can just keep warrantying it forever, as long as you've got the money. And that warranty covers a lot of stuff like, the interior electronics, the engine. Obviously, it doesn't cover wear items like brakes and tyres, as you'd expect, but it does cover a lot. And given how the slightly suspect reliability record of Jaguar Land Rover products, obviously not saying that this one's saying this one's a bad car, but they do have a slightly poor track record. And given how expensive these things can be to repair, the warranty does make a lot of sense. And the warranty costs for the V8, I'm not entirely sure what it is for the V6. You have to get a quote from JLR to do it. But for the V8, it is £1,267 a year. And that's the full warranty for the car. So this is almost just a cost of doing business with a Range Rover. You're going to need to buy this extended warranty. And it's a roughly £1,200 a year. And that's the same for the V6. Well, it might be slightly cheaper for the V6, but I reckon it's going to be a very, very similar amount. And then finally, in terms of running costs, the servicing. So I'm just looking here at engine servicing, not talking about servicing other stuff like, servicing the suspension, for example. That would be the same for both cars. But for servicing the engine, the servicing costs on the V8 are about 20% more expensive than on the V6. So hopefully that will make sense. On to the next. Okay, the next section we're going to talk about is reliability of the two engines. Now, I know that saying this is going to open me up to a ton of comments ton of comments from people saying, "Oh, you said the V6 was unreliable. My V6 has been going for 150,000 miles. It's perfect." I get it. This is a very, very difficult thing to talk about, and these are sweeping generalizations I'm making here. So please do take this thing with a pinch of salt and do your own research. Look on the forums. Because what I'm about to say is that it appears from my research of looking at the forums, looking at all the different Land Rover places, that the V8 is a bit more reliable than the V6. There, I said it. So the V8 uses this really old Ford engine, which you can trace its roots back to 2004. It's tried and tested. It's a very, very sort of quite an old school engine, I think, and it is what it is. The V6, on the other hand, is a sort of a slightly newer design engine, which it's been done by Jaguar Land Rover. It's also sort of Ford-based, but it's a bit different. And the cool thing about the V8 is that when you look online on the forums, there are no sort of catastrophic issues which happen to the V8. Of course, there are loads of V8s which blow up. They have turbos that fail. There are lots of individual cars which blow up here and there. And that's, it's to be expected, but there isn't one single issue which plagues these V8s. Whereas there is one single issue that plagues the V6s, and it's all to do with the crankshaft. I believe it's to do with the crankshaft bearings. There's something wrong with the V6's engine, and it does cause a lot of failures due to that specific issue on the V6 diesel. So that's why I'm saying that the V6 is slightly less reliable than the V8. Of course, both of these engines could go pop at any moment, but I think it's maybe just ever so slightly less likely to happen in the V8. But as we talked about in our previous section, the warranty. If you've got the warranty, you don't have to worry about this so much. If you've got the warranty, there's really no reason not to buy the V6 because the warranty is going to cover you for some of those repairs. The warranty will make the things a lot cheaper for you. So yeah, if you're getting the warranty, I wouldn't worry so much about this. But I'm sure this is a very inflammatory topic, and I've probably really triggered a load of people, and they're writing angry comments right now saying, I love my V6, and I love it, will love it forever. Fair play to you, But hopefully that makes sense to everyone. Okay, on to the final section. Okay, on to our final section, and for me, it's the most important section of all. It is the fun factor. Okay, so if we compare the V6 and the V8 in terms of performance, we can see that the V8 will do 0 to 60 in about 1 second less, so 6.5 seconds. Pretty quick actually for such a heavy car. It's got a little bit more power, say an extra sort of 80 horsepower over the V6. It's got quite a bit more torque, so an extra 140 newton meters of torque. It also weighs a lot more, so the V8 weighs an extra 250 kilos, which is quite a lot. And what I've read on some reviews is they say that the V6, because it's lighter, they say it handles better and it steers a bit better because there's less weight of the engine over the front axle. So I think the V6 might be a bit better handling, but there's one thing you get with the V8, and that is the sound. Now, this is where I start to sort of, the data doesn't do it justice, and maybe your head might say get the V6, but your heart says get the V8, and I'll tell you why. It's because the V8 has a majestic sound. The engine in this thing sounds amazing. It's got a beautiful, deep, like agricultural rumble. It's got beautiful turbo whistle as you're driving around. This thing, there's something about it. It just feels right. When you're driving around in your V8 Range Rover, it's really quite fast considering how it definitely doesn't handle well. It handles like a double-decker bus, but it's quite fast in a straight line. And it sounds amazing. I just think in this car, in the V8, you feel like the king of the road. You really do. And when you think about it, are there that many cars you can get which are actually better than this on the road? Like in terms of more luxurious, more comfortable, more fast, more fun cars. You're talking about things like a Bentley Bentayga, or maybe like a Rolls-Royce Cullinan. That's the only place you can go up from this. And this car just feels so good with the V8. So yeah, that's why I love the V8 so much. It's the sound. The sound is just so cool. And all this stuff, yeah, it's a bit faster. And maybe the V6 is a bit lighter and a bit better handling. But the sound is just, that's really what sold it to me. And this is another thing I just want to mention. Like, if you want a V6 diesel car, there's quite a lot of choice out there. You could pick, there's loads of choices. You've got Audis, you've got Volkswagens, you've got BMWs, or they're straight sixes, but you get the idea. There's lots of things out there if you want a six-cylinder diesel. But if you want a V8 diesel, your choices are very limited. You might look at things like maybe the Audi SQ7. That's a V8 diesel, but there's very, very, very limited choice. It's a dying breed. And let's be honest, cars like this with a V8 diesel might not be around that much longer. So yeah, that's why I think it's so cool. Okay, so I hope that all makes sense and you enjoyed the video. Hopefully that gives you some insight into why we picked the V8 over the V6. For me, we don't drive this car too much. We don't do that many miles. So the fuel economy and the extra maintenance, that sort of stuff doesn't really make that big of a difference to us. And it's just, we wanted something with a diesel V8, it's really this sort of car, they're not going to be around too much longer. And I think they might be a bit more of a sort of desirable, rare, sought after car in the future. So that's why we got it. If you end up getting the V6, you're going to love your Range Rover regardless of what engine you put in it. They're such cool cars, and they're beautifully made and just like nothing else on the road. Regardless of engine, you're going to have a fantastic time with your Range Rover. So I really, really hope you enjoy it. If you end up getting one, put a comment below. I'd love to see more and hear more from you. If you're new to the channel, maybe consider subscribing. I'm always producing new Range Rover content and new other car content, stuff like that. Trying to get to 1,000 subs. So yeah, I'll catch you soon in the next video. Cheers.